All right, so this is a PET CT Biograph mCT. It's your GEM, UMass, PDS, cooling unit, the hood for the cooling unit that goes inside the gantry, your SCR, your brake resistor for the SCR, and all these components work in concert to control both gantries. The GEMs for the PET side, the UMass, and all these components are, or the UMass specifically is for the CT side. And the UMass talks to the GEM talks to UMass, they all concert on the right gantry stand. All right, my fellow imaging engineers. So, nightmare scenario. Back on the PET, the mCT 40. Biograph. So the errors and issues were initially pointed to the UMAR because of no power. F5 was tripped. We see that reset F5. Turn the system off, brought it back up. Then the configuration said inside of the server software that the PET table couldn't be seen. Presumed there was an LMAS issue, but we also had already ordered a UMAR and a PDR just in case. Replaced the LMAS in the backpack, which is always fun. Super pain in the ass to do it. It's done. Tried to do firmware update. It wouldn't take firmware update to the vertical and the horizontal motor controllers for some reason, which they weren't an issue at all. So okay, that's a pain. And then also the configuration inside the software still showed that it couldn't see the PET. So replace the UMAR. Replace the UMAR, still the same issues. However, you look at the event log shows that it can't see none of this, even though everything has power inside the system. So I went to the functional description rather, for the system. F5 goes in XGS. The reason why I did that is because I noticed that there was an XGS error, a CTGSA 109. I was like, that's interesting. X5 does go through the XGS, but the X5 also goes to the PDR. So there's a possibility the PDR had an issue, fried the XGS, and the XGS just doesn't want to get right. So we're getting the XGS on order and a UMass just in case, because the UMass 2+, you guys know, these are a pain. The UMass 2As are better. And we're going to see about that now. Since I have those parts ordered, in the meantime, I'm still going to pull the UMAR out since I know they didn't fix the issue. Put that back up. I'll probably put in this PDR just to see what happens and see if that does anything. But I honestly think the XGS did get fried in this scenario, and that tripped F5. However, we will see. We'll see. So this is one of those weird things you can have being an imaging engineer. You have to keep going back and correcting the small issues to get to the source issue before you can alleviate the problem. The only thing with this is patients have to get rescheduled, and this is a very critical device. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so we're back on this call, and I just did this just to rule it out, since we already had a PDR here. It says a revision 1, even though we had a revision 2. Same form factor, everything like that. So we installed it just to see if we can get past our issue with the system come up. However, the XGS is still in a 1.1 state. It should be an 05 state. So the XGS is the culprit, I believe. It could be the UMass. It very well could be the UMass, but I believe the XGS is the culprit. We do have a UMass on the way as well. This is something you might need to get used to if you're not OEM, is getting things couriered. Sometimes they drop the ball and you can't get things in when you expect it to try to expedite service. However, the best thing to do is always try to let your customer know if you're in-house or third party to try to mitigate any issues with patients. Let them know like, hey, let's cancel all the way down to a certain time or even the entire day, just in case something happens. So I suspect we'll be up tomorrow. The parts coming in at 8 a.m. from the time I came back to install this part. I already pulled out the replacement U-Mark, put the original back in, put the original PDR back in, since it's not fixing the issue. And once we get the XGS in, we're going to install that. In the meantime, though, I'm going to go ahead and shut it all the way down to F1 and the UPS. Remove this XGS, that way when the new one comes in, we can just go ahead and slide it right back in. Remember, we got this bolt right here. This is God's pin. And make sure you're careful and take everything out. Be mindful of this plug right here that slides through here. This one that slides into the power supply for the XGS. And this is your dummy plug. Make sure that's on there on the new one. Also, before you just slap the new one in, make sure it's the same model number. You want to make sure it has all the same connections as what you have. That way, if it's not, you can go ahead and call the vendor that sold it to you. Hey, this is not the right one. We need the one stat, and put it on their docket. Hopefully, this helps out some of our new imaging engineers, or even some of our engineers that have moved over to this modality. All right, XGS is out. That pin that will have to come out. That bolt that goes right here will have to come out. You slide it all the way forward. Keyholes right here and right there. Power supply is connected right here, and here, here, and here. Sometimes it's easier just to do the power supply, depending on the situation, if it's not working. Oftentimes you just replace the old XGS, because if the power supply went bad, then more than likely the XGS is on its way out as well. So be mindful, be careful, because you do have fiber optics to go right here on your XGS for your Siemens CT. All right, definition family for sure. Here on the PET CT, Biograph. And I think those are the only Siemens systems that use an XGS like that. The XGS we pulled out last night. Well, here's the replacement. We'll cut through the plastic. Make sure everything's good. As you can see through the plastic. Let's see if the connections line up. They look like they line up. Everything else is in place. And these cables. And you're gonna send it back the same way. Now, if you're OEM, you probably won't have these cables. You'll probably have to remove it from the original unit and put them on the new unit. All right, we got it back up. We have the power supply plugged in and the fiber optics plugged in. Now, one thing somebody did prior to me changing this is they wrote on these connections, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. 26, 25. This one says 24. That's a smart move, and as you can see right here, boom. So feel free to do that. Get your marker, write them down so you can't confuse them. They even got these marked. So even though it's kind of hard it's hard to mix this one up because it's the biggest one, but it's a smart thing to do because you do have labels, and Siemens is pretty good about labeling their connections. However, with these up top, they really weren't labeled like that. So that was actually a smart move made by the last engine. Everything's connected. We're good to go. We can put this in later. We're just gonna make sure it works first before we really sandwich everything down. It's only a couple bolts or whatever, but let's make sure everything works. Get it powered up. So we do that power. It's inverter. Let's see what happens. And that's it. All right. It's got to do its thing. Go through its checks. Then we should hear some more clicks and stuff like that. and then you get power to the SCR. You pull in this contactor. Yep. We're getting good clicks. Getting good clicks. That's the thing with Siemens systems. There's usually some type of audible cue let you know that it's doing what it needs to do. That was a bar. Yep, see? Contactor. Oh, that's not the contactor. Didn't get pulled in on there. I thought it did. But it's doing its checks. Now it's pulled in. That's a good sign. That means power's getting into the gantry like it's supposed to. The UMass is happy to let everything flow over here. Get power to the components. So start the initialization procedure. So far so good. We're in the 0-1 state. It should end in the 0-5 state if I'm correct. I haven't had to stare at the XGS in a while. Usually these don't go bad that often. But we'll see. So I've already ruled out the PDR, the UMAR. So hopefully we get happiness from the system and everything comes out the way it's supposed to. Check back in. All right, we're still in the 0-1 state, not the 1-1 state, which is good. It's kind of hard to see because I'm about the LEDs on. So boom. We got the grid over here. So more like we need to do firmware update, but firmware update should take it this time. It should be happy, and it'll reinitialize, and the system comes to standby, like supposed to. And if not, it will replace the UMass, get that updated, and then everything should update like it's supposed to, and come into standby. Failed. That's not good. UMass. Now I'm concerned about the UMAR we need to update because this is the original UMAR. So maybe the original UMAR was also bad as well as the XGS, which would be weird. That's why you don't always send parts back the moment you feel like they don't work or they're not solving the issue that is showing, because you may need that part again. So before we do UMass, we're gonna try. We might put the other UMAR back in to see maybe if there was a problem. This is the part of engineering where you got to problem solve. We'll check back in. All right, guys, so we're doing the UMass. It's now saying it doesn't like the UMAR, but one thing that I noted was when I was doing the firmware update, it needs to do the firmware update for the audio. The audio is located in the UMass. The audio board is in the UMass. So we're going to go with the UMass. Hopefully it clears it up and it communicates with the UMAR like it's supposed to, because that's the original UMAR. And then we can clear everything up, go through autocomplete for the LMAS, because I'm leaving that one in there. It's a pain in the ass to take that backpack out. I'm not doing it again. And then we have the system up and running. Here's hoping. All right, so we got this for the most part connected to everything. Everything's tightened down. We don't have it mounted. If it's not the problem, it's gonna take it out. But we got everything connected. Make sure double check everything is seated. Siemens, like I said, is pretty good about labeling all of its connections. And if you can't really see it, sometimes you just have to kind of twist it around to see it and match it up to the legend. Let's turn on. Hopefully we got some good news. So you got power. It's actually starting up a little bit faster than last time. So this might have been the culprit. The thing is, though, sometimes when you're doing these fixes and the troubleshooting, you have to fix the initial issues that you see to get back and bring it back to what could be the source issue, like I said the last time. This very well could have been the whole entire issue. However, the problem in the event log showed that it was inside the gantry as opposed to the UMass. Then it said it was, once I replaced parts inside the gantry, the UMAR, then it said it was the XGS. Huh. It's having a signal issue. So now, we had the UMass, the XGS was probably not the problem. So I'm more than likely to probably put the, well actually no, XGS was part of the problem because when I replaced it, the XGS error went away. So we're gonna leave that there. It's like it's the XGS and the UMass so far. We're gonna see what happens when the system comes up. If we do firmware update that takes, then we're good to go. Get the system back and call it a day. All right, so the system's doing an emergency UMass update. Sometimes you have to do that. When you're installing a UMass, particularly if you're a third party. If you're third party, you'll probably see this more often than if you're OEM because UMass comes out of a different system. So as long as you got power, it'll say, hey, firmware update is impossible, or it's not possible. Make sure UMass has power. If it does have power, for an emergency update, you do perform the emergency update and it goes through everything it needs to go through. So far, so good. We're not out the woods yet. I'm gonna put the cart before the horse. However, I'm going back and forth, just checking on the system, make sure I'm not losing power nowhere. And let it do its thing. So it did UMAR, UMass, now it's doing LMass. So I'm hoping that was the fix that we needed. Like I said, sometimes we have to go through all these other issues, all these other points of communication. LMass is a point of communication. UMAR is a point of communication with the system. And to finally get back to the culprit, which is possibly the UMass. That's what it looks like. So we'll see.
They did? There's 10 now.
All right, so this is what you want to watch for when you're having a firmware update. You get this black screen with everything on it, and this actually shows you the status of the update as it's going on. So we're feeling good. As you guys saw, it's showing the LMass. It didn't show that yesterday. But I replaced, typically with Siemens systems, let me turn you guys around real quick. Hold on. Typically with Siemens systems, when you replace a serialized component like the LMass, UMAR, XDC, the tube collimator, the UMass itself, pretty sure the GEM, SCR, it'll recognize that part has been changed. And when you go to do the autocomplete or the tune-up steps, it'll highlight it, say, hey, yeah, I recognize this is a different serial number. And that's particularly for the serialized parts. Non-serialized parts, you have to tell it it's been changed, or you have to just do firmware update. Anyway, typically you'll see this in the CD docs. Oh, that's a $30,000 part if you're not OEM. All right, so got the replacement unit in, old unit out, original unit out, rather. See all the dummy plugs on this one? This one came with dummy plugs already installed. Just the lock. Can rotate it, make sure nothing's out of place. Spins freely. Beautiful work. Beautiful work. This is your tube collimator. What else I don't know? Oil cooling is behind here. Siemens designs this to be balanced. In the factory, you might have to add weights depending on location. It's a little warped. You see the mounting is a little warped. Here's your transmitters. Well, not transmitter. On the other side is your receivers. There's just a lot going on. So we're finna turn on power. We still have this disabled, S301. So it won't rotate until it's re-engaged, but we're finna turn on power and do firmware update because I'm pretty sure it's gonna need it, and hopefully we'll have gantry lights and it comes in standby. All right, so table synchronization went through no problem. Firmware update went through no problem. It didn't need to update, and it's still in the on state on the control box, but yet initialization error. And so now it's saying do S304, S307. Do a gantry reset. We're gonna see what that does. I'm thinking the UMAR as our culprit. We might have got a bad one. Problem. Then we're gonna tell them again that we have to cancel patients. That's not what we want. Because like unlike OEM, I don't have a hub I can just go get parts from. At least not for this system. We don't have a parts contract on this one. These are some things you might deal with being a third-party engineer. So I might have to call in. See somebody has one local. Let's get it from them. Just hit the gantry reset. The unit. Pet is gonna be on myself. That's in power supply. Hopefully everything syncs. Because it's not requesting a firmware update. Like it says, even though it says you can't see the UMAR, when you do firmware update, it just goes right through it. It doesn't do an update. Synchronize tables work no problem. So I am concerned. I got one more idea if this doesn't work. Because I've not even been to lunch yet. Alright, shut the system down. Looks like K10 is having issues. Because everything else is pulled in and K10 is not. So K10 receives power from the XGS to pull in the contactor to make everything happy. We do have power coming, 400 volts AC coming from the top and 120 coming from the rear. So maybe it's not pulled in all the way. But it looks like that might be the culprit that is keeping everything from being happy and from the XGS from not seeing a signal that it needs to see. It's telling the rest of the system, hey, you can see everything, because everything has power, like I said. See, power, 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 power. Showed you before, showed you again, power. Everything has power. CUA. Power, power. It's not hot yet because it turned off and on. Power. So until everything's happy, the XGS is happy, we cannot get the big clunk that we're used to having with this contactor that puts everything into standby. Fun times. See pin 5. I'm getting like negative 16 millivolts.
-6, so you're gonna get the zero. You're stop charging at that.
It's just zero, basically 0 volts on pin 5. Yeah, that connects right directly into the XCC back here. Hold on. I might be measuring the wrong one. It's X40 and X50 are right next to each other. Let me measure. Siemens didn't do a good job with this one. Let me see if I can get this one right. Yeah, it's still on the voltage. It's 15 volts. 15 volts DC except 24.
What is it?
15 volts.
It should be 15 volts.
It should be 24. All right, so sometimes y'all call your tech support guys and get their feedback. So it looks like we might have found out what the issue is while we keep going into an 11 state or 1-1 state here on XGS. We're gonna see, not the system shutting down, we're gonna see if K9 de-energizes. What we think is happening is K10 never energizes, the K9 stays energized, so it starts up in the wrong state. K10 is supposed to energize first, with resistors slowly bringing the system, slowly charging the XGR via the PDR. Then once the XGR is powered up, switches over to, de-energizes here, switches over to K9. That tells it the state it's supposed to be in over here. This controls both of them, but if this is shot and this is shot, then it can't, there's nothing to control. Both of them are bad, potentially. I presume this is really bad. And it's not seeing the proper state to be in. So, powering the system all the way off to see if this de-energizes. If it doesn't de-energize, then we're gonna order one of each, or actually a couple of each, because sometimes they come bad. And that's the last thing you wanna do on a part like this. So, order a couple of these, order a couple of these, get them in, install them, kill the power. When you do that, kill it all the way down there for it now. If you can find the break it to the wall, kill it all the way to the wall. You do not want to get hit with a 400 coming in. All right, you may not make that. So just be careful, do your due diligence, and yeah, hopefully that's it. And we figure out, and you see with these two components, have this going haywire, which has this not being seen the way it's supposed to be properly. This has you ordering parts to try to figure out and troubleshoot what's going on. This is a part of the engineering process, engineering problem solving. Sometimes the problem is longer than algebra. All right, so we got UPS off, turn it off first, then we kill power to F1, so you see there's no power inside the PDC, but look what it's still pulled in. K8 de-energized, K3 de-energized, K10. So K10 might not even be a problem, but K9 is an issue. And guess what? K9 is connected to F5. I did S1 before I did the UPS because I like to make sure the UMass doesn't get fried. So yeah, I think I'm gonna order both anyway. I think K9 is our issue because it's not de-energizing, which means when it powers up, this can't energize because this sees it in a K9 state instead of a K10 state. So it can slowly put power into the gantry and then switch over. All this just to find this. However, if you don't go through all this, you don't find this, which is experience. It's unfortunate, but experience is not easy. It's not fun. It is hard. It is treacherous. It is trying. You go through it so you can get the experience. You get the experience now going forward. I see a similar issue. I immediately, hold on, what's going on? Okay, XGS is in a 1-1 state. Hold on, it's starting in a 1-1 state. Almost already? Almost immediately? Okay, hold on. Let me check. We kill power to everything. Up. Because I remember this. If you don't go through this, there's nothing to remember. You won't know what to do. So that's that, man. And yeah. We'll come back. We're actually probably going to put all the parts back that were in his system. Initially, all the original parts back in. And then Yeah, get these daggone relays. Sheesh. Hope you guys are having as much fun as I'm having. Oh, real quick. We did order contactors, except these are not the right ones. Notice the housing color? Thus I hadn't pulled them out of the bag. So, did a Hail Mary, contacted the vendor that has their own couriers, just to make sure they had them in stock. They just placed the order for courier. When you are a third party, it behooves you to call your procurement team and the vendor and get them on the ball. Get it going as soon as possible, because now I got to explain to my customer, hey, we ordered the right part numbers, they came in the wrong style. And with this already being day 4 of the system being down, it has to get up to date. Like, this is one of those situations where you don't want anybody to question your competence as an engineer. So you need to get everything rolling first. Then go to the customer and say, hey, got the wrong style. I already ordered the right style. It's coming courier. It's going to be here by this time. Do that. Don't just go tell them that and then go do all that stuff. You know, go do all that stuff first. Then go tell them what's going on. That way, you don't lose a lot of competence, a lot of trust in your competence as an engineer, as opposed to tell them, hey, this is going on. And then they ask you questions like, hey, well, when's it going to be here? Oh, I got to go do that. I got to go do that. Well, what about this? Well, I got to go do that. I don't know. You don't want to, I don't know. Not this level, not this stage at all. So, I already called the vendor. They have them. I already got an order. I think I'll phone with you guys. We'll get off this video and hit up my procurement team and get it here ASAP. All right, all uninstalled, all the wires. So these go to T4. These go to T3. These go to T2. These go to T1. These smaller ones go to the bottom of right here. Nope, right here. Because those are not open. So 5, 22 NC, or 22 NC. These go to the bottom of DC. This top portion right here goes to L4, L3, L2, L1. Right here goes to 24 volts A1 plus, and then that should be, I think that's it. That's it. There's nothing else up top, no small wires up top. So, yeah. Do that, do that, do that. If I had like some small tape I can put on there to help label it, that'd be super awesome, but I don't have that. So make it do what it do. Now this should be kind of a push. I can either lift up and off or pull down and off. Either way it goes, I gotta get off here now. That's gonna be fun. All right, so yeah, I thought they were spring loaded. And then not, and I kind of broke the tab. Oh well, it is what it is. Don't throw it away just yet, because you may need to make adjustments to your new one. You said it has a 1 up top, the V down below, just in case you might have to do that on the one you get. Interesting. Very interesting. It's got some heft to it too. Alright, so we actually got it loose. Took out the back housing. It has a spring on it, so it did get stuck. That's what happened. So it has a spring on it. This has just enough pressure to push it back out. So just a little tidbit for you. Push it in back here. That's what releases it. The spring. So when it de-energizes, the spring helps push back forward. You see how it moved on its own. This is the range of movement. Takes a little bit of doing too. Yeah. Boom. You can see that. Yeah. So just in case you want to know how this works out, power goes in here, magnetizes this, magnetization, wound coils, that's how you get your magnetization. Pulls this in, it makes contact, power flows from here, from the bottom to the top. And then it goes to where it needs to go. So, yeah, that's what happened. It got stuck. So at this point, you could put it back in just to test it. Problem is, it probably will happen again. You probably have issues down the road. So replace a new part. I'll probably put it back in just to get them back up and running for now. And then once the new parts come in, go ahead and replace it. After hours. Just come in after hours, do it then. The way you won't disturb the flow. They got going on. Get a little bit over time. All right. Here's where we at. I got the old one pulled out.
Yep.
Right part number, wrong housing. However, I already called the vendor. Tri-Imaging, they have their own couriers.
Okay.
I've already got it on our team. I've already called the Tri-Imaging, let them know, hey, we need these ASAP. So he's getting the pricing right now to get them ordered, to get them here via their courier today. But yeah, this is the wrong housing. So we probably would have blew something. But I already got the other one pulled out. I already got the zip tied off, what needs to go where. So as soon as we get confirmation of when they get here, it goes right in. All right, so I just want to let you know that before I came and say, hey, these aren't the right ones. So right part number, wrong housing, but we already got new ones on the road. All right. Just the back, just in case. Okay, 10 spool first. So both of them are shot. All right, guys. So we're back on the system. We've brought out Siemens. It's funny to be on the other side of this where the customer. Well, I'm usually Siemens coming out to service the customer, but now I'm the customer. I am servicing the customer, calling Siemens for the customer. Now we're talking materials, so we don't get first dibs on service. So of course I'm doing whatever I can to service the equipment. What I did was the contactor, I made sure I double checked all the connections, make sure it was good continuity, and it was. That way I can rule out if the contactor is probably bad. I have another one to replace K10. And I might be doing it because it still ain't pulled in. Like I said, I double checked, make sure all the grounds are fully connected because you can put it in too far and you have the connector sandwiched on the installation and not on the actual wire. And so yeah, this is Monday after the weekend. After having Siemens come out, look at it, they ordered the part. Should be here soon, but we won't get service till late in the afternoon. Which is one thing you may need to be prepared to deal with. And neither K10 or K9 pulled in, which is K9, K10 is supposed to pull in first. So I think we start with K10. We'll bring it in. Now here's the thing. You see that? Those are numbers. So we have everything but K2 pulling in. And it starts at K9 and K10 because neither one of those deal with their social sleep. Remember, the problem was K9 was stuck last week. So we've already replaced both of them. Not doing anything, so I'm gonna replace K10 again with a new one. If you have this style, this came off his old system. This is used unit K6, but it's from a tested unit. So when you're a vendor and you're not OEM, you oftentimes have to go with used components that are tested as opposed to new, because new is super expensive when you're time and material and not contract. So keep that in mind next time they go to the negotiation table. You may want to do a 360 deal where you get discount on parts and you have a labor pool with them. So after you've exhausted all your options that you can exhaust, you can pull from the labor pool and get service, not only adequate service, but first dibs. So yeah, we're finna kill power and try this again. All right. I'm getting K2 finally. Replace K9 and K10 again. Double check all continuity from F5 to K10. And I was thinking like maybe F5 didn't replace, but we probably system on plan. We got K2. So I'm thinking replace K9 again. After we see if there's any issues with the XGS and software and all this stuff. So we're gonna make sure all the firmware's up to date. If it comes up, we're good. If it doesn't come up, we'll replace K9 again. Man, having K2 and a double snake eyes. What old boy say? Chef kiss. So the phone update is for the audio, which is inside the UMass. So this UMass might be going bad. This is the original one. So the one I have to replace it that I took out because it didn't change anything, I'll probably keep it for a little bit after we get the system up, just to make sure we have one here to replace. That's going to be a constant issue, because if the audio is going to be a problem, then other things could be a problem. It could be signs of degradation in the UMass, and that it probably needs to be repaired. So yeah, we do that. Looks like it's not going to come to standby because audio is not enough for it to not come to standby. That's ancillary. So I think we replace K9 again, and once we do that, I think we'll have the system up. Because I was really thinking F5 was the issue. It still could be. Like once I replace K9, if it still won't come up, then F5 is probably an issue. Because when I was doing continuity on T2, which is test point number 4, to K9, T3, test point number 6, based on the functional description, the continuity was spotty. It was like beep 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 beep. It wasn't solid. And it could be because that cable may not be in there solid. So I'll double check that first, and then They replace F9. Of course, we're gonna do it with the power off. Do not mess with this with the power on. We're talking about 400 volts, 480 volts coming out of mains, 3 phases, down to 400, down to 233, depending on where it's going. You don't want to get hit by that. Yep. We are back with K2 pulled in. So we're going to go ahead and replace K9. And hope for the best. If they don't do it, then we'll most definitely get the F5 ordered. And replace that. Fun times. So there's K9 that was in there, and I think that was our problem. I think whatever happened, tried this. We got another one. You see it doesn't have that issue right now. We're gonna check these jumper cables for continuity. Everything is fortunately labeled on these cables. So take your time putting them in 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 as they're supposed to go. Your thinner ones are gonna go to the signal on the outside, and your thick ones are gonna go on the inside. Power everything up, and then some of them jumpered from over here. I think this one's a jumper cable right here. Whether it is or not, I'm not concerned with that. I'm just gonna make sure I read the label, take my time, get them all done, get them all installed, and tighten out. And you know what? I'm thinking about before I do that. When F22 got tripped and I had a spark in here, I didn't know where the spark came from. Now it makes sense. This is where the spark came from. Yeah, this is where the spark came from. So, yeah. Engineers, sometimes you gotta go back over your work, man. A few times. Make sure everything's completely seated, or make sure it's not on the installation, because that can cause a problem as well if it's not sitting directly on the metal. All right. Replaced. Double checked all the wires, top and bottom. This is gonna be interesting. Now, if this doesn't work, then I suspect that 5 is bad. Or it's compromised, at least compromised. Take some names. System checking the brakes, pulling in contactors, strike interest in, everything. Usually you don't hear a lot of this stuff because there is covers and everything. Seen F10 or F9 pull in at all, either one of them. So I think F5 is really an issue. It just went in for a second. Wasn't doing that before. F9 is not pulled in. Why is F9 not pulled in? know if y'all saw that. Okay. I'm not gonna pull it off, power it up, but I think an F5 needs to be pulled. It needs to be in order for sure. All right, so we almost got into stage 6. F8 pulled in and dropped back out. I'm gonna go to lunch. Make sure you guys do take breaks from this, because you can go so hard that you overthink it or underthink it from being lethargic, being hungry. Take a break, get a breather, go use the restroom, whatever you do. But step away from it so you can come back with a clear head and then approach it again. I may have some wires in K10 that are too far in, and so it's installation, or it's not far in enough to have enough grip on the wire. So I'm gonna start there with the system off, with F1 off, so we don't have any power running through it. And then we're gonna do the continuity test again, and then we're gonna bring it back up and see what happens. That's it, because once K8 does what it's supposed to do, K10 does what it's supposed to do, then we can see if K9 is gonna do what it's supposed to do. There was no sparks this time. F22 didn't trip this time. I think we're getting close, gentlemen and ladies. I just want to show you that this stud's pulling for a second. It's doing a re-knit. I think F5 is shot. You see that? Pops in and pops back out, so it's not getting copper voltages somewhere, but it is telling the system. So the HCS, I don't think is a problem. I don't think. I think it's F5. Close back out. Let's try to re-knit one more time. So I'm gonna get those parts ordered. Hopefully, I have to replace F5. We have a working system. All right, guys. After a week and 2 days, we're finally back in standby. As you can see, we got full control. The system, what you see me touching. The table's not moving on its own without some type of control. You can't just move it. Use the brake releases. And what happened was, well, let's put everything together, get out of this noisy room, and we'll break down what I surmise happened and some things you can look for while you're troubleshooting.